everyone, and welcome back to Caught Lookin'. My name is Kelsey, and I will be guest hosting so that our wonderful overlord Meg can get an evening off. Joining me today are Ash and Allie. Thank you, ladies, for joining me. Sarah was initially on the roster to record with us this evening, but she actually had to travel back from Houston today, and had a horrible time getting through the Houston airport. So she is taking the evening off, as well as to celebrate Father's Day, which a happy Father's Day to any of our listeners who are dads. A lot of the players are dads, and we got to see a bunch of cute photos of them today on the broadcast. That really warmed my heart.
Yeah, that was cute.
But before we get into anything crazy, I wanted to say that we recently passed 10,000 plays and downloads, which is really crazy. So I'm sure that Meg would, be remiss if I didn't thank you guys all for listening and building the community with us. We're super grateful as contributors to be included. It's just really delightful to know that we've invited so many others to share their love for the sport, and to make new friends through like our Discord and social media conversations. So thank you guys so much for that. We're just so happy that you listened to us talk about this. And actually, we have something super interesting we're going to talk about before we get to the Guards Milwaukee and Houston series recap. We're actually going to talk a little bit about the collective bargaining agreement negotiations that are currently going down between the MLB and the MLBPA, which is the Players Association. So, very recently, actually, in the timeline, MLB is proposing sweeping draft changes. Now, this was on June 18th, so this was just 3 days before we recorded. I was actually kind of reading a lot into that because the draft has always kind of eluded me. It's like one of the only drafts where there's like 16-year-olds being drafted into the systems, and I find that really strange. But that's actually one of the things that they are trying to reduce. So basically, MLB is proposing a reduction from 20 rounds to 12, a $200 million hard bonus system in which players are paid according to their draft position with no room to negotiate. And this is a really hard point because teams apparently have not spent $200 million or less in the draft since 2010. So they're really cutting back on bonuses for these players, and high school players would no longer be eligible for the domestic amateur draft, and college players would be draft eligible at age 20, meaning they would have to do at least a couple of years in college to even be considered. The MLBPA is pretty pissed. They think it's basically a non-starter. They think it's a ridiculous notion to push a lot of the things that would go to the minor leagues back onto college. I think the Players Association is kind of saying that they're treating the minor leagues as a cost rather than like a farm system, and the MLB is trying to push too much of this training and the farm system back into college baseball. So I thought that was interesting. A lot of what I've read, and I don't know if you guys agree, is that this is just kind of a bunch of gobbledygook that the MLB knows this isn't going to happen. But at the beginning of negotiations, you make outlandish demands that then can be, pared down to a
Mhm.
reasonable agreement. But a lot of people are like, this is just not going to happen. And they know that, but they're just trying to posture and show the players' associations like all of the different options that they have, and how they're trying to stick it to them.
Well, and I'm glad you ended on the note that they're trying to stick it to them because my interpretation of the first round of proposals is that the MLB was not being unreasonable. Like their first proposal, I read and I thought, that doesn't sound that bad. Now, obviously, if you're the Dodgers or the Yankees or one of those teams that's spending $9 billion, you're not going to like it because it's going to give other teams the opportunity to compete.
But they agreed
Um,
to it, the owners, to even
yeah,
release the agreement that or
yeah.
their
But
proposal.
and then when the players released their counter proposal, it was such a hard rejection of what the owners had proposed. And I was surprised by that because again, I just didn't think the owner's proposal was that unreasonable. It makes sense now that we're going back for round two. The owners are like, "Oh, you're not gonna budge, then we're going to get even more outlandish." If that's
Yeah.
how this is gonna go, then we're gonna swing for the fences.
Yeah,
So,
which kind of goes back to what you were saying, Kels, in the beginning too, where it's kind of feels like they're aiming high to settle with like what they initially wanted. So it's like they're still gonna like the original one, they're like, no, we don't like this. Okay, well, what about this? Okay, now we're okay with the first option all of a sudden. So it's almost like they're still just trying to get that first option out there.
Yeah, and to explain to like some of our more normal listeners, I'm a normal baseball fan. I actually don't really know a lot about how like arbitration works and the negotiations for contracts and stuff. So I'll explain MLB's first proposals and we can discuss further why the players think this is so outlandish. I totally agree, Ali. I think that it wasn't that crazy, but I understand that the players can't just accept that outright because, they probably want to get a little bit something more in return. So on May 28th was the first proposal was released by the MLB. So this is the owners. These are the guys who actually own the teams. They all agreed on this for this to be a proposal in meetings. So Dodgers owner and Miami owner, like the two different echelons agreed to this. So they're proposing a salary cap, including benefits expenses of 245.3 million for the next season of 2027, a salary floor also including benefits expenses of 171.2 million for 2027. And obviously if you're a Guardians fan, you know that we're at what, like 93? So we're half of what the floor is basically wanting. A 50-50 revenue split between clubs and players, and the centralization and equal sharing of all local revenues. Basically, I don't really know what the other two mean, but the cap and the floor makes sense to me. They say that 9 teams at present are above the proposed cap line, but 12 teams would be below the floor, which includes us. The amount needed to get all these teams below or above the relevant payroll thresholds amounts to an $18.7 million loss in aggregate player salary overall, which I don't think that that's that bad. Like I understand these dudes want to be paid properly, but to get all of these clubs within a level playing field having that much in loss just doesn't, like I don't think Shohei Ohtani would even really notice if you removed 18 million from his salary. He would probably just
No.
be, I mean, he's deferred part of his salary to make the
That's
Dodgers a
what
bigger super team.
I was gonna bring that up too. Like you have to consider deferrals and all of that. Like half of them aren't even getting paid what they are being said, like their contract shows right off the bat anyways.
Yeah,
agreed. And I don't think that this really harms their ability to get paid. I think about the Kyle Tucker of it all and how maybe it harms your ability to go get paid $40 million dollars or get paid superstar money to be like the eighth best player on a team. But I just don't care. Like, because I think about when you're asking the Guardians to double their salary, who are they giving that to? Are they signing a free agent or are we going to have players that finally, is Jose Ramirez finally going to make his market value? So, for as much as you might think that you're restricting the high end teams, you're really enabling some of the lower end teams that have never even tried. So, it's not like they're not going to get paid. That's the part that's frustrating, I think. And worth noting that the NFL and the NBA both have their versions of a salary cap, and I don't think those players are calling broke. I don't know. Don't think so.
I think that's what's frustrating about this as a fan is a lot of people have been calling us like, oh, it's millionaires versus billionaires. And I understand that the Players Association, they're looking out for the younger players, the future of the game. And it's like that's a really noble cause. And I completely understand that. And I don't want anybody playing the sport and like dedicating their whole lives to staying fit and traveling and playing for their city to be underpaid. But when you think about like the amount of money we're talking, it just seems crazy to not want to cap like that because like I said, there's only 9 teams that are even over the cap. Like these dudes are all like, making a ton of money. There's the with the floor, there's going to be more value, I feel like, being given than lost. Like I just don't see what the nine teams or the players, the stars that are being paid this much, like how much more money could you guys possibly need? Like
Well, and
who
I'm
needs to be
glad,
paid $500 million for 15 years? Like this
yeah,
is insane.
I'm glad you brought up the millionaires versus billionaires point because if you had asked me a year or two ago, I probably would have said, yeah, I'm team players. But while doing the research for this, I just kept thinking about how many hundreds of people it takes to put on a Major League Baseball game. Hundreds might not even be right, but thousands just from front office people to people who work concessions to people who clean the facilities to people who work the gates and people who support the team behind the scenes that don't get a say in this. And if games don't happen, they don't get paid. And so it's millionaires versus billionaires, but there are tons of people making way less money who stand to lose something, who get no say in any of this. And so it just kind of made me, I was frustrated with the whole thing. Whereas I started the research thinking I was going to be on the player side, I was kind of just like, I don't like anybody involved in this. Because the reality is, most of the people, most of the fans, most of the people who work to make game day happen just will never comprehend the money we're talking about anyway. And I
Hmm.
keep thinking of those people.
And kind of piggybacking off of that a little bit, I like that you have already brought up the name Kyle Tucker because he does not need that kind of money. And like, if you don't have some kind of a cap, some kind of a floor, more players of that mediocrity, no offense to Kyle Tucker, whatever, get your bag. But there are going to be more players of that level, the seventh, eighth, ninth best player on the team who are going to be demanding, top one, two, three kind of pay. And it's just, how long is this league going to be able to sustain something like that? It's not possible.
And you know what? I'll defend Kyle Tucker for 10 seconds. I don't think that he's not a good player, and I'm only referring to him because there was that rumor when he signed that contract that he knew he could make that money elsewhere, but that it would require him to be the star of that team, and he did not want that pressure and attention. So he took that money from the Dodgers where he could be less in the spotlight, which, again, if you're not willing to be that for a team, then do you need $40 million? Did you earn $40 million? I don't know.
I
I
agree.
think what's frustrating about it too is that the Players Association released their proposal one day before MLB, which is interesting. I don't know if they like knew like how I don't know how that works out if it was planned that way, but it just was kind of interesting that MLB was like, all right, our proposal's coming out after theirs. But the Players Association's opening suite of proposals was just like to me, when I read it, it's more bullet points, and I will read it so that Ash and other people can understand. But it's like more, it's so vague. Like there's just a lot in there that I'm like, I don't know how the Players Association expects for these things to be implemented. So what they wanted in their opening proposals was a competitive integrity tax levied against teams that don't spend a minimum amount on player payroll. Okay, so you're talking about a floor. It's like the same thing. You're talking about taxing the teams that don't spend the amount, but it's like billionaires don't give a fuck about fees and taxes. They don't care to get fined for doing something if they still are going to come out net positive at the end. So to like not just say this is a floor and your team cannot be under this floor, you won't play is just it just feels stupid to be like we're going to tax you if you guys don't spend enough on your payroll. So I that one just seemed really silly to me. An increase of the minimum salary from 780 to 1.5 million, which that's understandable. That seems like a fair amount to pay even the youngest player. An increase of the bottom competitive balance tax, which is the luxury tax from 244 million to 300 million. Increased sharing of local broadcast revenues among teams, but less sharing of stadium game day revenues. Tens of millions in extra revenue sharing to go to low revenue teams that make the postseason or have a winning record, which that's fine and all, but I don't want to have to keep depending on the power of friendship to like make more money later on. Like that seems like a weird point because they should already be incentivized to win games, but to just like completely shit on the teams who are already down on their luck or have like a shitty owner feels kind of annoying. An expanded draft lottery, free agency after 5 or more years rather than 6 for players who are at least 30 years of age at the time, penalties for teams that neglect to spend revenue sharing payments on team payroll, draft picks and other incentives for low revenue clubs active in free agency, elimination of the qualifying offer for outgoing free agents, and increase compensation for lower revenue teams losing players to free agency. So it's like all of those things that they made in there just, I don't know.
It's vague. It
That's
is
what I'm
very
saying. Like that,
vague.
it just is. I understand that these are all things to protect the players, and especially like going into free agency and allowing them to make more decisions. But it's also just how do you even implement more more things into the already crazy way that we treat players. Like we just DFA'd Valera and then he cleared waivers, so now we get to keep him and then he goes to the minors. Like the way if you explain the way that we transfer players around in the MLB to like just NBA and NFL fans, it would just be too difficult to understand with the way that they trade players from the minors to the majors all the time. Like in football, you're not really randomly just like trading guys back and forth from lower teams. Like that just isn't something that happens. So I just like I don't disagree with any of the things that they necessarily said, but it's like they're saying the same thing but in like a more annoying way. They just don't want a cap because they want to be able to just make a ton of money and have bigger and better contracts. But if you have a floor, it just feels like no matter what, you're going to get paid a good amount of money. Of course, having a cap without the floor, that's ridiculous. But
Mhm.
to just have a floor and no cap, it feels like the same problem, just in the other direction.
I also wrote down that their revenue sharing proposal was every team contributes $50 million dollars in local streaming revenue and then two-thirds of whatever else they make. And I couldn't even do the math of what that looks like for a lot of teams. And I just the MLB proposal of media revenue being split evenly between all 30 teams just is so easy to do math wise. And the player proposal is so complicated. I can't even process what that looks like. And I did enough research to know that a lot of small market teams are operating at a net negative in terms of media revenue. So I'm just not sure how that helps them or how that looks for them. And I don't understand finance. So if anyone who works in that industry wants to break down media revenue and what it looks like to contribute 50 million and then two-thirds of what's left for all 30 teams, that'd be lovely. But again, some of these proposals are just so complicated. I'm all for reducing arbitration. I wrote that they want to increase rules that prevent service time manipulation. I'm all for that. I'm all for getting your rookies paid more.
Yeah.
And so a lot of their proposal really was about taking care of the younger players and making service time a little bit more fair to the players, and I support that. But their just hard rejection of a salary cap just feels like we're never going to come to an agreement here. And I can't bring myself to have sympathy over the millions, especially now when you're talking that your minimum salary is $1.5 million dollars.
Yeah.
Which I guess the minimum salary would make sense if you can implement like a salary floor, but if they're going to just pose that as taxes, like in the case of the Guardians, or I think it's Miami, who's
They're the
they're the
lowest.
lowest.
Hmm.
Um, paying enough to meet that salary floor is probably a lot more than the taxes that they would be fined for not doing that. So obviously, if you pose it as a fine, they're just going to take that fine. It's less money for them.
I
So
mean,
unless
that's
you're
like what
implementing that floor, you're not going to implement a
Gilbert
cap.
does.
Yeah,
That's what we do for the Cavs. It's like
mhm.
he's like, I don't really care that
The
we're
luxury
over.
tax is a
Yeah,
suggestion, not a
yeah.
rule.
Mhm.
Like so it just seems like the players are leaving too many ways for the owners to manipulate their own proposals. And like I said, it's a beautiful, noble cause, and I understand the players want to make sure that everyone's taken care of. But then when you think about the stars and the cap issue, it just kind of starts to break down for me. Where it's like, I expect the MLB owners to be greedy and evil. Like, yeah, they're billionaires. Of course, they want to make more and more and more money. But I also just understand that these guys, there's no way to cut it. Like, they're making a lot of money for what they do and how they play, and they only do so many games in a season and they get off time in an off season. But I just don't know how to support the players association without also thinking like Donald Trump is right. Like he was like they need a cap, and I was like, dude, the worst person just made a
Just made
great
a great point.
point. Like, no. So it's like every other sport has it. So it's just like I
Hmm.
don't know how the other sports got to this point and why it's taken us all the way to 2026 to be like going through it right now. And I saw somebody make a great point on Reddit. It was like Manfred's done so much work and we've gotten so many new fans and he's implemented, rules that the players have hated, but the fans have loved. And that's where another disconnect is the pitch clock and the ABS system and like these things that I think are great for the game, but apparently the players like all fucking hate that the shift is gone or that there's the pitch clock. So there's just the complete disconnect, I think, with the players and the fans, which becomes kind of frustrating because it's like, dude, I'm here, like I'm coming to the games no matter what, but it is kind of an entertainment thing, and I would like to enjoy myself and not be locked out for the whole year because you guys you don't want to play.
Yeah,
Like
like what is this podcast if there's no season next year? What?
What do we talk about?
maybe we need to go into arbitration with Meg and demand and do a lockout for
Yeah,
some of the
we are
local
also lockout.
podcasting revenue.
Also, maybe another reason that I'm here shilling for billionaires is that their media revenue split, they say that it would help end local blackouts.
Oh
Um,
my
and that's
God.
the number one problem for the fans right now. So, if either side wants to get the fans on board with them, end blackouts and you have me. So that's where I stand.
I definitely I definitely agree. The way that the broadcasting has changed just in like the past few years with everything. It's like the your game tonight is on Fluby. Your game next week's on Apple TV. Your game after this is only on radio channel 900 AM and you have to have the premium subscription. Like I cannot do this anymore. I don't want to watch the game on Apple TV and I'm not going to do it. Like I'm just not going to watch that game that night. I'm just going to be a fake fan and I'm going to do something else. So I just want there to be a more centralized thing. Like the MLB app is fantastic. I love watching any of the games all at once and any of the different broadcasts, but when it goes to like national television, it just becomes like a complete nightmare.
And see, it's nice because like I do have MLB TV, but the only reason I have it at all is because with T-Mobile I get it for free if I get it within a week period, and they never advertise that. Like that's the only way I have it. Because if I watch on any like, it's nice being in New York and watching Ohio sports teams because I don't get the blackout, but then I don't have anything to watch them when I do go home. So it's just like it's so frustrating.
Well, and that's what I deal with here is that I also have the MLB through T-Mobile, but it frustrates me when I have that, but I can't use it to watch the game because the game's on Apple TV. Um,
Right.
and I have Apple TV because so I'll watch that one, but there are a couple like the Peacock games, like the
Yeah.
just I don't think
Hmm.
baseball has taken over Netflix. That's like the one streaming service I don't have access to, but I'm not buying that subscription to watch the game. So I hope you're getting the streaming revenue you want from those exclusive rights, but
It's similar
I
with
it's
like
just
not getting my
NBA.
money.
The NBA was on the playoffs were on fucking Amazon Prime
hmm
and
That was
TNT.
horrible.
TNT.
Yeah, it's just like
It's just I don't understand
why?
like if you're only doing like say 10, 11 games on a streaming service, how much are you actually making in revenue with that streaming service to make that necessary? Like there's no way they're making enough money to see that that's a thing that they need to keep doing.
And now we're sounding anti-owner because this feels like an owner decision. But they're the ones who told me they won't do it anymore with their proposal. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't understand any of it.
I'm just anti anything that would make baseball not happen next year.
Yeah,
That's my stance.
I
I
know it's just
agree.
how much longer can you kick the can down the road is the unfortunate thing. Is
I do
like
think this is earlier. I took some notes on the 2022 negotiations, but I couldn't find out when they started. I think the fact that they started now is good. I think that is earlier than normal. And these discussions happening earlier hopefully help us get some common ground before March of next year.
for
But
2022, that was a 99-day lockout forced by team owners and it delayed the start of the season. But
I was just looking at that too.
I think we should all three do our predictions. I I don't think they're going to come to an agreement. and I do think the season will be delayed. How long? I don't know. I would say maybe 1 to 2 weeks. I just don't think that the owners are going to let it go that long. So I don't think they're going to get the cap. I think they're going to kick the can down the road and they're going to get some of the minor proposals like about revenue sharing or something. Because I don't think the players they can hold out. Like they don't own the big fucking massive stadium where I have to buy a $15 beer to watch the game. So I think the players have like a better opportunity for holdout. They have like savings and I think they're just more willing to put the pressure on than what the owners are fronting. I don't think billionaires like losing revenue that much. So I don't think they want the season to be postponed at all.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I definitely don't think they're going to come to some kind of conclusion by the season. It's just, I feel like pigs will fly first. It's one of those things. It's like, it's just not going to happen. It'll be delayed. But I would say probably a month at
Mhm.
most. Nothing more, I would hope.
Yeah, I think by May there's baseball. I'm curious to see what sticking points, like what negotiations they do agree with. Like, do we go no salary cap, but okay, we'll do equal revenue sharing? And if that's how it works out, how long does it take to see the impacts of that hit a smaller market club? Because I don't care, you can give the players everything they want in terms of service time and salary minimum and minor league rules. Give them all of that. But I think the way that we distribute media rights or the way that we allow small market teams to spend money, that's where I want to see them agree on something.
Yeah, I think a good point as we close on the topic. I want to talk about the international draft point that I missed, but I think there is that weird hopelessness that other sports don't have where you know that you're just going into the season and like you're not contending. And I think that's what's frustrating. It's like the Dodgers, I think, have made the postseason 11 years in a row now, and they
Mhm.
only kind of recently started leaning into being evil and crazy. But then you look at like the Mets and you look at like Milwaukee and Cleveland and like the White Sox are doing great and everyone expects them to suck. But it just is like baseball is so random that you will get these stupid anomalies where you're like laughing at the Mets because they spend $350 million a year and they're like what 12 games under 500. I don't
They're
even know.
terrible. They're
They're
terrible.
horrible. And it's like there's so many other things that are important besides the salary. And that's where like I get they're discussing those other things, but I think by and large spending money does beget better results. Like, and that sucks to see, like, to be a fan of a team that doesn't spend money and just go into the year, like, knowing that you're not going to have a good time, knowing that you, like, probably aren't going to go to the stadium that often because it's kind of a waste of money and the tickets are expensive and the drinks are expensive and the food is expensive and there's no parking and the parking is expensive, but the owners still like expect you to show up and then the players think that you don't really give a fuck. So it's just like a horrible cycle. And that's like I want a floor more than I want a cap if I'm being honest. Like to see that Dolan would be forced to spend like $80 million more than he currently is to do something with the team is that's just delightful in itself to think about for me. Like the cap I know kind of has to come with the floor. I don't even really care about the cap that much. They could make the cap higher, frankly. I don't really care. I just want there to be some sort of like area that we all need to stay between so that I don't have to watch the Dodgers score 23 on the Rockies twice a year.
That's
Well,
kind of where I'm at too. Sorry, Allie, I didn't mean to
no, you're
cut you
fine.
off.
Go
But I was
ahead.
just saying, like, as a Guardians fan, obviously the floor is like the most ideal thing because we got guys to sign. We have holes in the roster that we need to fill because something's not clicking lately. But then also I want the cap for the same reason, like the Dodgers need to be stopped. And being a fan of the NL at the same time is like so conflicting, especially considering it's the Mets. Like I'm watching one of my teams not spend any money and be like kind of okay. Like we're kind of doing okay. And then on the other end, spending all of this money and being quite possibly one of the worst baseball seasons I've ever seen in my life. So sometimes the money isn't really, what's winning those games, and I would just like to see it, stop the Dodgers, make those little markets spend and pay their guys.
I think the concern too with having a salary floor without a cap is that it will just move the goalposts a little bit. Like your small
Hmm.
market teams will then have to spend that minimum, but then your big market teams are just going to double what they're spending.
Hmm.
But I don't think that happens immediately. So I wonder if there's a reality where we do implement the floor. There is no cap in this round of negotiations,
Mm.
but in a few years, do we see that happen where now the Dodgers have a $600 million roster instead of a $300 million roster? And now are more people on board with the cap also because they saw that the floor was maybe only effective for one season? I don't know if that's how it would go, but I don't hate if we just get a floor right now and see what happens in time. And either it works out great and everyone's happy, or the owners get to say, "We told you so. We need the cap."
No,
So.
that's a great point because, looking at it as a whole, like you're forcing you have to spend this much, but you can't spend more than this. It can be a little overwhelming in a league that has never done either of those things. So maybe
Hmm.
forcing that to be seen is kind of the route that we need to take because the Dodgers will do that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
There
They will
should be,
do
isn't
it
there
and they
like a
will take their
natural
time.
cap though? Like how much money does the owner of the
That's
Dodgers have? Like,
That's why they defer everything. It's like they can't, like
God,
when I say the Dodgers can't keep getting away with this, like I'm serious. Like, how do they keep doing this? Like, what is this man doing? How much money does he have? Because it's just unreal. It's
that's
got to
another
get to a
point
point.
though that to what I'm saying is like the players are making enough fucking money. Like if you can defer all of your salary to make the most super evil team of all time, then you definitely have enough. You're making enough money because like you've got the big
Mhm.
fat house in LA, you've got everything you ever wanted, and you're making interest over interest on whatever you have like in the stock market or your whatever your financial fiduciary guy is doing. So just as like how much more money do we need to put into the top teams for it to like become actually a legitimate problem? I don't know what that answer is because somehow the Guardians still end up doing well, or like Milwaukee does well, and like these small
Hmm.
teams will still like break through because baseball is random and sometimes being paid doesn't mean you're good, like with the Mets. So I just
Hmm.
at some point there will be both of these things will happen. It's just I don't know when. I think I agree though, Allie. I think that's a good idea that they would do the floor and then see what happens
Down
and
the
how
road.
how evil it can actually get.
And see, kind of going with that too, like, and I hate looking at it from like a Dodgers standpoint, but looking at it from a Dodgers standpoint, I can kind of understand how they would be looking at it like, oh, this kind of not necessarily evens the playing field, but kind of puts all of the teams within the same bracket. And I can see them being like, oh, well, how is that fair to us? Blah, 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 whatever. There's not 30 Shohei Ohtanis. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're not paying a Shohei Ohtani per team. That's not going to happen. It's just that I
That's
can I
true.
can see them kind of looking at it in that way. Maybe not necessarily that specific,
Mm-hmm.
but it's I feel like there's kind of a, you know, leveling the playing field uh viewpoint that is kind of deterring some people away from that.
Yeah, like the Cavs are the most expensive team, but it's the players that matter. You know, Donovan
Yeah.
didn't do what he needed to do as the superstar. So yeah, of course, it's the money again doesn't matter. It's the way you use it and
It's
how you
it's
build
where
the
you're putting
team.
it. It's whose paycheck you're putting it into that matters.
All right, I don't want to beat a dead horse too much, so I'm going to talk about the one part of the proposal with the draft change for MLB was also a change for an international draft, which I thought was really interesting because I honestly didn't really know how they drafted or like picked players of free agency that aren't in the US, Puerto Rico, or Canada. But basically, what their proposal is so US, Puerto Rico, and Canada are all part of the standard draft, subject to a similar system they would make international players. So they would come with a $200 million bonus cap as well. International amateurs may sign with any team under the international free agent system, although teams do have hard budget caps each year. Uh, the MLBPA hates it. They don't think that that's helpful. They find that that's going to abolish an entire year of international signings because the first draft for the international people would be until at least September of 2027 and as late as March of 2028, denying young international players the ability to start their professional careers because they wouldn't be able to sign into free agency and they would have to wait for the draft, which of course would come after 2027 season has already started, whenever this proposal would be agreed on. They also say that with the players being no high school players being added and college players having to wait 2 years, that it destroys the fundamental player rights and removes talent from our sport by barring high school and junior college players, anyone under the age of 20, from the domestic draft. So it all seems like that's just not going to work out. But I thought that that was an important point to make for the international players being part of like a separate draft. I don't know. I don't really like that. It makes me think of like separate but equal. Like it just
Hmm.
feels vaguely racist to me to like have two different
It
drafts
feels odd. Yeah,
yeah,
it
like
feels weird. Like
I
you're
don't
not good
really
enough
Yeah.
to be in this other
yeah,
draft,
you
so we're
can't be in
making you
our
your
draft.
own.
We'll do a different one for you guys. Like
Is
okay.
there any mention of why they couldn't be combined or why they wouldn't be combined? I am also confused by the timing of it. Like, why a September draft?
I don't know. I mean, this is from CBS
Well,
Sports. Did
and
I
so
read
you're
it in?
drafting a player and your minor leagues are not even playing in September. So you're drafting a player and then what is he doing until the club reports in January? Are you
Yeah.
making them come to the complex league? I don't understand the timing of a September draft. I don't. I'm sure there's obviously a reason they picked that,
Yeah.
but it surface level sounds like a logistical nightmare.
Yeah. The so that's a little bit of the CBA negotiations going on. I know that Sarah's super interested in it, so whenever new things come out, we'll try and cover developments, but this is obviously super early and this current CBA ends December 1st. So if there's no decision by that time, then there technically will be a lockout. That doesn't really matter though because it's off season anyways. So there will most likely be negotiations probably for like the next almost year. I guess it's June. And the season starts in like April or whatever. So we'll stay on the lookout for that. But before we close out, we need to discuss the Milwaukee series and the Houston series. Which I have to say, it's really funny that the Guardians like got completely destroyed by the Yankees and then randomly put belt to Detroit and then we went and got destroyed by the Brewers and Astros. It was funny that we just like we locked in for 2 games to take down the Tigers a little bit more, but we let the Rangers and the Yankees and the Brewers and the Astros completely put belt to ass. So that's kind of comedic to me.
I
I'm
do have
glad
to
I'm
respect
glad
that
that
hate.
you're laughing a little bit. I'm glad you found joy in it.
I'm laughing because I would cry if I didn't.
That's actually why Sarah didn't make it, is that she watched this weekend in person and she said, I've
Yeah.
had enough. I need a break.
I just don't
Yes.
understand the last three games, losing 9-3, whooping ass 8-1, and then 2-1 today. It's just they're so inconsistent. They're so consistently inconsistent, and they piss me off.
Okay, and it's
Today,
our
yeah.
I you have to talk about how impossible it is when three of your most productive hitters get hurt in the same game. Like,
And you can't predict
yeah,
that happening.
no, every
Like,
prediction you have for the season couldn't have included that, and I think it's unfair to criticize the team without acknowledging that this is an unfair and horrible situation. But it's still hard to watch as a fan.
yeah, and like those three players specifically, like you kind of expect at some point. Like Chase DeLauder, let's be honest, we were all expecting it, but it happened a little
Mhm.
later than we expected. So I think that's the silver lining there. You kind of
And I think
pray
he
Jose
probably
doesn't.
needed these 2 weeks.
Honestly, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Like, yeah, sure, he was still getting on base, but he was in a little bit of a mental slump himself. I think this was probably best case scenario for him. Maybe he'll be back sooner than we expected. It's just like, yeah, you can't going down all three one game. Like those notifications to my phone is like a dagger to the heart with each one. Like I was
Mhm.
like, when does this end? When is this over?
And for them to like lie and say that on hell, well, not that they lied, but like to say that Chase and
I
On-Hill were
think they
day to
just
day, and then they're gonna,
they put it out
On-Hill could come off the
way too
bench.
early.
Yeah,
That's what got me was Angel could have come off the bench if we played today. All of a sudden now
yeah,
he's dead. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
what? Like what happened overnight? That's crazy.
Yeah, I get that it's fluid and stuff like that, but it kind of gave me false hope into like I
I
knew
just feel
Jose was
like
done, but
yeah,
for
I
them
just
to
feel
be
like
like
if you
On-Hill's fine, On-Hill's
yeah,
fine.
I just feel like if you don't know and you need to wait for results like they did with Chase, fair. That's fine. I can wait
Yeah.
another 24, 48 hours for, an announcement. But to put kind of like that, like you said, that false hope up in the air and then just like, hey, sorry, he's actually not coming back for a while is kind of like deflating.
Well, and I do think what probably happened is they have, I'm guessing what the Guardians have is called a fluoroscan, which is a portable X-ray that's good
Mm-hmm.
for like big obvious fractures in a hand or a foot. And so they probably took Jose back there, did their little portable X-ray on his hand, and it was obviously broken. So they told us that immediately. They
Mm-hmm.
probably did the same for Angel, and it was a small fracture. So that portable X-ray, which is not as good as a real in a hospital X-ray, but it's immediate, so it's convenient, probably didn't show it. So they
Probably didn't pick
probably
it
said
up,
he's
yeah.
day to day, and then they after a couple days still hurting, so they sent him to get a real x-ray and then they find the much smaller one where they're like, okay, it is broken, we probably need to let that heal. um and I also think a lot of it has to do with the moves in the minor leagues that they just don't want to announce until the logistics make sense. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I do think sometimes they keep that stuff secret. Like, I think they knew Chase DeLauder was going on the IL long before they said it, and they just wanted to make sure that Khalil Watson and his family were ready for that promotion,
Hmm.
and I think they kept that in-house. So I can see why they have their reasons for how it all went down. It just really sucks that it all happened in the first place. Like,
And all at the same time. Like
yeah,
I feel like
in one game is crazy.
yeah, these three injuries spaced out would be so much less of a blow because like I said, Chase you expect I mean, Angel has been hit in the foot how many times at this point? But it's just
It was
all of
bound to
the, yeah,
happen.
all
It
Yeah.
of
was just
those right
fouling him.
there
Yeah.
in that game specifically. Like Detroit is just a cursed team. We can never play them
It
again,
was definitely
actually.
Scooball's fault, and I think he did it on purpose.
I can't agree with you on that one because I love him and I want him to be a Guardian so bad.
No, I know. I'm
He
just
is the
telling
only person on that roster that I have any amount of respect for.
Did you see that did he actually say that they need to start playing better? I thought I saw on like ESPN Fantasy that he kind of made like a vague threat about the team needing to play better.
I didn't
That I
see
didn't
that, but
s-
he's right.
He's
So
absolutely correct, and I hope that is true that he said that because that would be really funny for me personally.
Oh man, I hope I'm not doing a slander right now.
Scooble, say it with your chest.
One of the things that was most upsetting about the past two starts for Slade was that he actually locked in and the rest of the team left him hanging because he had that great start against Milwaukee. He went 5.2, 3 hits, 1 earned run. And then, of course, he went today and he actually went 6 with 6 hits and 2 earned runs. And it's like, man, it just sucks that they actually kind of figured Slade out a little bit because he was having a lot of trouble going through the lineup enough times. And then for the he's like now he's Tanner Bybee. Like the offense is like, actually, I'm not gonna do anything.
our pitchers have been good lately. Tanner had a good start, no reward. Joey had a good start. We won. Slade had a good start. The pitchers are doing fine. It's just coinciding with a really unfortunate offensive
Offensive.
timing.
Hmm.
Travis Bazana and Kyle Manzardo are still showing up and doing their job. I want Brian Rocchio moved back to the 9 hole because he's not hitting poorly at the top of the lineup, I don't think, but it feels like the timing's not right. Like
He just
he's
hits so
hitting up
good in the
there.
9 hole.
Yeah, like Bazana and Manzardo are getting on base, and then Brian Rocchio's not getting his hit of the game until the next time up. Like
Hmm.
it's the timing's just not working out, and I think This is all about, it's about me, really, and my comfort level is higher when he's hitting ninth, and that has nothing to do with the hitters on the team.
I also just think so many rosters are set up to where you see that 7, 8, 9 hole and you're like, okay, these are the guys that I
Free
can
outs,
strike out
let's
pretty
go.
easily. And when Rocchio's in the 9 hole, that's not the case. Because I feel like he does hit so much more confidently there, so much better there. And it's like the bottom of our lineup is equally as dangerous when he's in those bottom three spots.
Yeah,
I
it's
fully
him
agree.
and
It's
Hedges are like wild cards in there now. Hedges
Yeah.
used to be like free out, whatever, but now having both of them down there, it's like, okay, be a
Um,
little careful.
this is gonna change the subject a little bit. I'm sorry. I want to talk about Austin Hedges because Patrick Bailey's playing a lot more than I thought he would.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
I hope I'm not wrong, but I think we've had three Bailey starts in a row,
mm.
I know he definitely played today,
and he played
played
yesterday.
yesterday. Let me check Friday. If I could go to the right section on this app. Um,
He caught the first Houston game that we lost
yeah.
9-3. He had three at bats in that game.
So he played this whole series.
And
That
this
is
is a team that
weird.
has been very loud about we cannot have a catcher start a day game after a night game. We just can't do it.
Hmm.
And I'm
And they've
not,
shown that consistently with, when
yeah.
Bo was up and with Hedges, like they have not let them do that. And I know that, like, no disrespect to Bailey, like I know he's a gold glove catcher, but it's like that doesn't necessarily mean that you should be breaking those rules for a player if you're not going to keep them consistent with the other players in that position.
And I think I'm overanalyzing it, but is something going on with Austin Hedges physically? Like when he was hitting well in the early part of the year, did something happen where they were like, oh, this isn't sustainable? Like we can't keep splitting his playing time 50-50, and that's why the Bailey trade was made. I don't know. And again, I know nothing and it's not our business. I trust that they're putting out the lineups they think are the best. But when Bailey caught his third game in a row today, I thought this is unheard of levels
Hmm.
of catcher playing time split for this organization. And Bailey's been hitting, so I'm not upset about it.
But
It was
he's
just
not
something
like
I
young.
noticed
He's not,
today.
yeah, it's still not
Yeah,
like it feels a little weird. I guess it's a sort of a holiday weekend with like Juneteenth and Father's Day. So I don't know if maybe it was like kind of
Austin had just went too hard for
vacation.
Juneteenth. hmm
And okay, I did find the Scooball quote is true. This is a direct quote from the Detroit News. He said, "The reality is we need to play better baseball, or else, come the deadline, you give the front office an option to reassess where this team is," Scooball told the Detroit News earlier this week in a story published Thursday.
I wonder if he's alluding to his ultimate trade
But even
because
if they
That's what
play
he
better, do we think there's a chance he's not traded? Like, he's gone, right? He's got to be gone.
I think in a perfect world he stays because that's what what I would think Detroit wants, but after his arbitration and how far apart they were on what he's deserved, I don't see how he'd wants to stay there personally. I mean, he's clearly not respected and, you know, held up to the standard that he knows he can play at. I would want out personally. But I see
Which,
him being traded. I would like it to be to Cleveland. I think that would be really funny for my agenda.
well, and he only has what he's a free agent at the end of the season, right?
I believe so.
I want him to be a Guardian so badly because I love him. There, the haul that it would take to get him here, I'm just not comfortable trading within the division because whoever it is, like Ralphie Velasquez, is going to be haunting us as a Tiger for the rest of forever, and I just don't think that's worth it for 2 months of Tarek Skubal.
I
Um,
also think him signing here on his own accord rather than being
would be
traded
better.
is funnier.
So that's what I hope he gets traded to somewhere else, and then let's talk in November is what I would like to see happen.
I
He
think
is
he's
a
a
free agent.
Yankee.
I would
Yankee.
actually do
No,
terrible things to the city of the
There's a
Bronx.
lot of buzz. I just looked
no.
literally Tarek Skubal and it says Tigers have desired return in Tarek Skubal trade. Yankees seeking help behind the plate. It's like,
Okay,
oh, they're
I
talking about
actually
behind the plate.
Here's
I
don't
know, but it's like
care.
they're
Here's
saying
my thing though, as somebody who lives 25 minutes from Yankee Stadium and has to deal with all of their bullshit on a daily basis, they think everybody who goes on the market as a free agent is a
he's a
Is
Yankee.
is
Yankee.
which
Like every single, they thought Tatis Jr. was going to be a Yankee at one. I was like, for no, not happening.
you guys don't
They,
even look like you're having fun. Why would someone want to sign there?
yeah,
Um, I don't care if he's traded to the Yankees for 2 months, especially because when the Guardians inevitably have to get through the Yankees to advance in the playoffs, Skubal is a pitcher that they've figured out. I don't want to say they've figured
Hmm.
him out.
I
We
think they
kind of
figured him out
have.
But we won
better
that
than
game that
other
he just
teams.
started. Yeah, and we
Mhm.
had some playoff success against him before. So I don't really hate that if it's for 2 months. Just as a free agent, absolutely not.
It'd also be funny for me personally to see yet another rental for the Yankees walk out.
Yeah. I had
Rental.
2 months of this. That's enough forever.
I
Goodbye.
hate them more than I like my teams, and I'll stand on that. They can give me whatever shit they want, but I just
I feel like every episode that I'm on, it devolves
I
into Yankee hatred.
and I'm
Because
always
last
on it.
episode
I'm
I was like,
always
I'm
on
not
it
trying
with
to
you.
be
I
really mean. I'm not trying to be mean, but I
was
hate
like,
the
I am.
Yankees.
I was like, I'll be mean for you, actually.
And then Gavin Williams was that was probably the most disappointing part of the recap we're doing. 5 innings, 7 hits, 7 earned runs. It was really, really painful. It kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Is it a stretch to say that he was probably due for a bad game? Not that bad.
Maybe
Like that
that's
was a
why it
little
hurt.
like, yeah, like that was a little like, wow, okay, seven is a lot. I feel like he was due for a tough start,
Yeah.
but that was just a little bit more than I was expecting.
I will
Yeah.
keep my comments for tomorrow because I think he's starting tomorrow, and I will we'll see if it was a fluke or if there's something going on a little bit
Well,
more
and tomorrow
behind
we
the
start a
scenes.
series against the White Sox, and we're coming off a really tough stretch. So we need you now more than ever, Gavin. If you are the ace that everyone says you are, show me what you've got.
Well, this is what we were saying as we play the White Sox 7 times.
Before what, July 6th or something like
Yes.
that?
I just can't believe I have to care about them. This is so wild. What
I
timeline is
know.
this?
I honestly prefer it. Like, I feel like their rivalry's not as bad with like Twins and Detroit people. It's kind of like, okay, dude, leave me alone. But
I'm like getting bored with the Detroit rivalry. I want
yeah,
something
like
fresh.
I don't have any hate for the White Sox. I think it's great. I think it's funny. I'm glad that they're doing well. And it makes the Twins and the Tigers look worse, which is funny. So, I mean the Royals, they're completely irrelevant. I don't even know what's going on over there.
God, 32 and 46. I was just looking at
I
that.
don't even know.
Wow.
I don't know what the Royals are doing. I haven't heard
I don't
of
think the
Bobby Witt
Royals know what
Jr.
they're
like the
doing.
entire year. So, I don't know. It's like a fresh rivalry. It's nice. I like that it's not the
What
same
happened with the
thing.
Royals is that Vinny Pasquantino broke his hamate the same day Jose did, so they're hamate twins.
Oh, really? I didn't
Um,
even see that's there's so
Yeah,
I
see, I
literally
didn't
didn't
know
yeah,
even
that.
hear about
yeah.
it.
Well, and I was annoyed because Vinny's surgery was done like the next day and Jose's took a couple days, and I thought, why are we letting them beat us? But
Maybe
that's
Jose
not
put it off.
important. Yeah, it's not important. We have a winning record,
I was
quite
gonna
It's the
say they're not
frankly. They
hamate
currently
don't,
beating
and
their
they
surgery
team
don't.
standings,
Olympics.
so
I'd rather be in our situation than theirs. So,
I think I would I think we'll take two. I'm being really optimistic. I think that this bad stretch was just because it was a lot of good teams and it was a lot of shit going on after the injuries and stuff. And I think that
mhm.
now it's, a division rival, which we just play the Tigers and we won both of those. So I think it's just like we're going to come back. We know these teams well. They always talk about
Mhm.
this AL Central teams. We all know each other really well. I think that we can have a return to form. We can gather ourselves. The newbies are kind of, they've had a little bit more time to settle in. I think
Yeah.
that it was just a really weird week. It
Well,
was
and you
just
know what
very
I want
funny.
to see? I think the top half of our lineup looks good. Like, I don't mind. Obviously, love Bizana leadoff. That's going great.
Oh, he's
Manzardo hitting
great.
second is interesting. Three and four, again, like I said, I want Rocchio moved down. I don't know who you put three and four. But what I really, really want to see is for Stephen Kwan to be in the everyday lineup, and I want him to hit towards the bottom, but I want him to be a stabilizing force that helps these rookies feel comfortable. Because you look at the bottom half of our lineup, and it really, today especially, looked like a bunch of young guys who are just struggling to figure it out and they're
Yeah.
feeling pressure and they know they have to perform because we're missing so much offense, but they've barely figured out how to survive here. So I want to see Stephen Kwan step up and say, you know what, I'm gonna forget about the horrible year that I've had. I am going to be the veteran leader that kind of provides this calming and stabilizing presence in this lineup, and I'm going to see a lot of pitches. I'm going to get on base, and I'm going to make things happen for the young hitters behind me. And I think we would be able to forgive a lot of what has gone on this year if he can do that. And so that is my request for this upcoming series.
Stephen Kwan, if you can hear us.
Yeah. And if it doesn't happen, I see a lot of chit chat about Stephen Kwan not having a future here, and I'm too scared that those conversations are real. And I think he seems like a wonderful human, and I want to root for him. He's such an easy guy to root for. So I think now is just a good opportunity for him to give us that.
Yeah, I think this series will be very telling, and I think it's important to note too that our pitchers, specifically Williams and Messick, are the two that I consider this, very
Parker.
heavily. Yeah, I love that. Love them both. But after a bad outing, their next ones are pretty much lights out historically. So I'm really expecting a big game out of Gavin, and I'm just praying that like Stephen Kwan and our offense can help him out a little bit. And I think that this could be a turning point for a lot of guys.
Steven has the worst OPS this season.
I saw that on Twitter and
I
somebody, I
couldn't believe
forget
it.
who
I had to look
quoted
it
it,
up.
and I was like, I'm just gonna scroll past this and
I
just
literally
Right. And we're
had to look it up.
forgetting it. We're flushing it. We're moving on. We're getting on base starting tomorrow. Yeah.
I have been really in love with some of the lineups that Steven is trying to put together with all of these
No,
randoms. I'm
no.
like, wow,
They're so
that certainly
painful.
is something.
And listen, not to like go on my Quan defense tangent again because I try to be very realistic about him, but I know he's been struggling. But pinch hitting Fairchild for him today, I was like, this is just making bad worse.
The
Like what
broadcast, they've mentioned that like Rick and Matt were like, I don't think anyone had this on their bingo card.
no, I didn't because I looked up and I was like, he's pinch hitting for who? Like not that necessarily that Steven was having the best game of his life, like he wasn't, but I don't think that we're making any changes by putting Fairchild in there instead of him. I just don't understand. It's very funny though.
Yeah, and before we close out, there's one other thing I heard on the broadcast that I think the last two games, not including today, we didn't draw a walk. And
I
that,
hate it. I hate
yeah,
it.
and
Hmm.
another, that's just another testament to like these guys are so scared and young and everything's switching up too much. They're just kind of like staring at the plate. Fairchild, though, he drew a walk
He
in
did
today's
draw,
game.
he did
And
with a
he used his
challenge,
AB.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was a
it was off a
AB challenge.
challenge.
It was very stoic. It looked like he had it handled. So I think they were scared. They were saying that like we had not had a game, 3 game stretch of not drawing a walk in a long time. And I
Since
know,
2009, I'm pretty sure is what
yeah, I
he
was
was
like, I couldn't
saying.
remember the year, which that just shows how horrible I am at my job because I was like, I'm gonna remember this for the podcast later.
I remembered it because it was like kind of traumatizing. I was like, what? I was like,
Yeah.
we're not about to set like break a record from 2009. A bad one at that.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to the White Sox series, and then we play the Mariners as well after that. And we will be back home for that, the Mariners, but we will be in Chicago for 3 and back home for the Mariners Friday, Saturday, Sunday, up to June 28th. And that's what will be covered in the next episode. But that seems like it. We covered a lot of ground today. I'm very proud of us. So thank you guys for joining me. And as always, thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcasting app and all our social channels. And consider joining our Discord so you can chat with other people who listen to the podcast and other Guardians fans. And as always, whether you're here for hot takes, heartbreaks, or home runs, don't get caught looking. Go Guards.
Go Guards.
Thanks for 10,000 listens.
Thank
Yay.
you.